How's it going, football fans? I'm Blake Brody, and I'm pleased to welcome you inside the set of Gridiron Glory. We are very excited to kick off our 13th season of Gridiron, a show we care very much about at WOUB, and I'm honored to be your host for what promises to be a very exciting season. Let's get started. Now, before we dive into this season, let us remind you how we got here. The 2010 campaign had a little of everything, from conference titles being up for grabs till the final week for many area teams, to dominating conference runs from others, and also exceptional individual performances. Now, let us take a quick look back at the 2010 season. The 2010 season was as exciting for Gridiron Glory as it was memorable for many area teams. In the SEOAL, for the first time in what feels like forever, it wasn't the Logan Chieftains competing for the title. Instead, it was Jackson and Gallia Academy competing for the conference in the season's final game. Despite the Blue Devils having Gridiron Glory's Player of the Year, Austin Wilson, in their backfield, it was Clay Arthur and Jackson who dominated the matchup, took the title, and reached the playoffs. Nelsonville York claimed yet another TVC Ohio crown, but it didn't come easy. The Buckeyes needed a dramatic 28-27 Week 10 victory over Athens to avoid a three-way tie for the title with the Bulldogs and Alexander. Although the Spartans didn't win the conference, Sean Arno's team continued to take strides, following their first ever playoff run in 2009 with another one in 2010. The Hawking title was decided early on when newcomer Wahama took down the reigning champion Trimble Tomcats with a Week 2 victory 14-6. While both teams made the playoffs, Wahama carried their momentum all the way to the West Virginia State Championship game. In the MVL, the Sheridan Generals ran roughshod through the competition, completing an undefeated regular season, dominating opponents by an average of 44 points a game en route to a regional semifinal berth. But they weren't the only MVL team who made noise. The Tri-Valley Scotties had an impressive 9-3 season and even won a playoff game. And in West Virginia, Williamstown turned out another solid season at 9-3, reaching the playoffs and advancing to the second weekend. Also in West Virginia, Parkersburg snuck into the playoffs behind running back Alan Wasonga, and crosstown rival Parkersburg South narrowly missed after a crushing loss to John Marshall in the season ender. Speaking of West Virginia, there's no shortage of tradition in Parkersburg and Williamstown, and both appear set for a strong 2011 season. Coming off playoff runs, both the Big Reds and Yellow Jackets are eager to make 2011 an even bigger success. Matt Digby has more on the Mountaineer State.
Parkersburg South had a good start to the 2010 season, but close losses resulted in a .500 record without a playoff appearance. The Patriots won 3 of their first 4 games, including a 43-16 win over Ripley and a 28-6 win over Coolidge. However, in Week 5, the Patriots traveled to Athens, where they lost to the Bulldogs 22-7. That started the 3-game losing streak, marked by a tough 48-7 loss at rivals Parkersburg. The Big Reds, meanwhile, were 6-4 through the regular season and qualified for a AAA playoff berth against South Charleston, who they had lost to earlier in the season 48-34. However, they were unable to avenge the loss and fell a second time, 62-7, in the first round. In addition to their rivalry win over Parkersburg South, the Reds' biggest regular season wins came against Huntington, Riverside, and Marietta. Williamstown also made a playoff appearance after an 8-2 regular season. One of their losses came against Worth County in the low-scoring 13-7 contest, but they rebounded the next week by dominating Gilmer County 74-22. The Yellow Jackets' first opponent in the Class A playoffs was Fayetteville, where they prevailed 42-21. Up next was a rematch with Worth County, but like in the regular season, Williamstown came up short, 13-10. All 3 teams had admirable seasons in 2010 and will look to win more this year. Reporting on West Virginia, I'm Matt Digby.
Joining us now, Pat Moore and Katie Daup. They'll be all over our Mountaineer State teams this season. Pat, West Virginia teams bring back a lot of talent from last year's squads. What can we expect this season?
Yeah, Blake, lots of experience coming back in West Virginia this season. Let's start with the Parkersburg Big Red, who returned 24 seniors.
That's right, Pat. This year, the Big Red are returning with quarterback Alex Ash, who passed for almost 2,000 yards last year and had 15 touchdowns. Also, Chad Collins will be leading the way on both sides of the ball and punting as well. And these are just a few familiar names you'll see again from last year. And even with all these talented returnees, the team does have some big shoes to fill after losing 4 starters from last year, most notable being Alan Wasonga.
Yeah, Wasonga definitely going to be missed this season. We're kind of looking at the schedule. What are some games to look forward to?
Well, Pat, the big game, as always, is the Battle of Parkersburg. We actually spoke with Parkersburg South coach John Bolin recently, who said something I thought was interesting. Even though the Battle of Parkersburg is on the Patriots' home field, he doesn't think that will make a difference because of the type of atmosphere the game will bring.
Yeah, kind of hard to believe there with the kids usually liking to be in their own locker room, their own field, to avoid the buses, but Coach looking pretty confident with his team.
Absolutely, and looking on paper, they're a young team. They lost Jeff Kidder, Bo Burtis, and All-State letterman Kyle Cross.
But you got to look at the returnees. I mean, starting quarterback from last year, Tyler Bolin, he's back. Lots of Friday night experience there. Also running back Jake Douglas. So the offense looks to be still intact.
Absolutely, and looking at their schedule, Coach Bolin thinks the first few weeks of the season will determine how successful Parkersburg South will be. Ripley and Morgantown are expected to be pretty talented this year, so these games will be a big test for these young Patriots.
Yeah, lots of exciting games early on the slate there for the Pats. And now moving on to a team looking to build off their success from last season, is the Williamtown Yellow Jackets. They made a fairly impressive run last season in the playoffs, going to the second round. Unfortunately lost to Work County, which is the second time that season losing to the Tigers. But you got to look at the players they lost. I mean, they lost Lane Noss, who also played defense, quarterback, defensive back. Also Matt Hendrickson, running back, also played defense. So you've got multiple years started losing there. But when you look at the returnees, I mean, you got Trey King, who's really going to be looking to hold down the offense there at the running back position, and then stepping into quarterback is starting JV quarterback from last year, Jake Tracewell. We'll see how the inexperience kind of bodes for the Yellow Jacks this season.
Absolutely, Pat. It's going to be an interesting season. And clearly, Blake, we're going to be keeping it cool down the South this season, right?
Okay, always keeping things fresh. That's Katie and Pat. They'll be your West Virginia duo all season long. Good job, you two. Now, last year, the MVL resembled something more of Sheridan's personal playground. The Generals stormed through the season undefeated and unchallenged. But the Scotties of Tri-Valley were a success themselves, advancing to the second round of the playoffs. Our MVL reporter Glenn Janos recaps the 2010 season.
Last season was a two-team race in the MVL, with Tri-Valley and Sheridan running through the league. The two squads squared off in Week 8 to decide the league title. The Generals would prevail in that game with a 42-14 victory. Both squads would make the playoffs but would fall in the second round. Behind the Generals and the Scotties were the Philo Electrics, who finished with a 6-4 record under first-year head coach Dirk Lincecum. That record marked Philo's first winning season since the 2000 campaign. John Glenn and Crooksville finished with 5-3 records in the league. The Ceramics started the season strong, winning their first 5 games, but faded down the home stretch, losing 4 of their last 5. Maysville ended their season on a 2-game winning streak to claim the 5-5 record. Morgan ended a 19-game losing streak when they defeated New Lexington in Week 7 and would finish at 2-8. New Lexington and West Muskingum rounded out the bottom of the MVL standings.
Well, you heard him, now you see him. Glenn Janos joining us at the desk now. Glenn, make no mistake about it, Sheridan dominated the MVL last season, but will they make it more the same this year?
Well, it's definitely going to be difficult for them because last year they lost a lot of players to graduation, so they're going to have to be replacing a lot of people. They only have 2 returning starters on offense, just 4 on defense. But one player I think is going to have an immediate impact, Mitchell Fouch. He's going to be the main running back this year. Last year he wasn't a starter, but he did get significant amounts of playing time. And then at the quarterback position, Drew Murray's going to be taking over for C.J. Myers. And Blake, as we know, last year Myers was one of our Player of the Year candidates.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see how that works out for him. What helps, though, is he's got a stable wide receiver in Jacob Horsley. Horsley's a 3-year starter, so he's been there before. He's got the experience, and that always helps a new quarterback. But one thing that Coach Paul Culver mentioned that's going to be a little concerning is they have a lot of two-way players. He said they're really working to build up the stamina of the players so they can be out there longer and not have to worry about any fatigue issues. That way they can stay effective.
Okay, well, it sounds like Sheridan might be ripe for a takedown this year. Who do you think's the team to beat then in the MVL?
Well, I think it's Tri-Valley. Tri-Valley, they're returning a lot of players. It's kind of the opposite of Sheridan. Sheridan lost a lot. Tri-Valley's bringing a lot back. And starting at quarterback is Nathan Strzok. Last year he threw for almost 2,000 yards. Running back Austin Jones ran for over 1,000 yards. And the good thing is they were only sophomores last year. So they're going to be juniors this year, bringing back more experience. Expect them to have another strong season. But one thing that Coach Justin Buttermore mentions a little concerning is the lack of depth on the offense and defensive lines. There's only going to be 2 returning starters on the O-line. And Coach Buttermore said the front line's strong, but the second team's what really they got to pick up because it's a little lacking. If there's an injury or a player gets fatigued, they really got to work the second string up to where they can go in smoothly and not have any worries about transitions.
Okay, so if Tri-Valley's at the top of the standings, how do you see the rest of them playing out?
Well, I think Sheridan's going to have a tough time staying towards the top. Because Philo last year went 6-4, placed third in the league under their first-year head coach Dirk Lincecum. So and they're also bringing back a lot of seniors. They're a very experienced team. I think they're going to be tough. Maysville bringing back a lot of players also, so they're going to be competitive. Crooksville, you never want to sleep on them. I think they'll be a tough team to watch out for. Then last year at the bottom of the standings was New Lexington. I think this year Coach Bill Nutt said they're going to have more speed, so they're going to be a little more competitive. And then quarterback KJ Hook suffered from compartment syndrome last year. It's a rare condition, so he's working to come back from that. So again, interesting storyline down there, but I think it's really going to all come down to the Scotties this year.
Okay, well, we'll see how it all shakes out this season in the MVL, but it's sure to be entertaining to say the least. We look forward to hearing from you all season long. Good stuff, Glenn.
Thanks.
For even more coverage and all the conferences we cover, check us out on our new webpage. Go to WOUB.org and you'll find us under the Sports tab at the top of the page. Gridiron Glory, your top source for Southeast Ohio football coverage. You can also get additional video-related content that didn't quite make the show on our website as well. Well, the SEOL had a lot to be happy about during the 2010 season. It featured Gridiron Glory's Player of the Year in Austin Wilson, and it featured a thrilling league race that went down to the final Friday between Jackson and Gallia Academy. Our SEOL reporter Josh Hunsberger takes a look back at 2010.
For the first time in 6 years, the SEOL crown fell into the hands of someone other than the Logan Chieftains. Behind running back Clay Arthur, the Jackson Ironman ran the tables with a perfect 6-0 record against league opponents, including a 41-18 victory over Gallia Academy in Week 10. The Blue Devils couldn't hang their heads too much with a third-place finish and a 7-3 overall record after they finished just 2-8 in 2009. Logan finished up fourth in the league, with each of their season's 3 wins coming in league play. Chillicothe showed signs of strength under new head coach Ron Hinton by grabbing 4 league victories to sneak into the second-place spot. Portsmouth's high hopes for the season faded fast due to the injuries of starters Josh Myers and Angelo Jackson. The Trojans ended with just 3 wins on the season. Marietta and Warren bottomed out the SUAL with 1 league win each. Warren looked impressive at times with a 5-5 overall record, while the Tigers finished with 3 wins in their final season as a member of the SUAL. The Tigers will be joining the East Central Ohio League at the start of the 2011 school year.
Now joining us now to break down what should be a very entertaining season in the SEOAL are Josh Hunsberger and Carter Rodriguez. Guys, it's a wide open conference this year. How do you see it all playing out?
Well, you know, if I had to pick a theme to look at going into the season, it's got to be unpredictability. You know, you're normally going to look at last season's champion, Jackson, as the favorite. However, these Ironmen lost 19 seniors, including Player of the Year candidate Clay Arthur and Kip the Gun Winchester under center. So for that reason, I'm going to look at Logan to take the conference this year. They had won the conference for 6 years running until last year, where they fell to 3-7 on the season. Had a down year. I think they're going to rise back up, be on that pedestal again, and I think they're going to take the conference. But really, I've got to say, the SEOAL has never been more wide open.
Yeah, I agree that it is wide open, but I think one team stands alone, and that's the Jackson Ironmen again. My theme this year is going to be the best and then the rest. Jackson has always been a program that replenishes strength and size, so I don't think you got to worry about the offensive line. And they just brought in Austin Osborne, a transfer from Wellston, and this kid is a pure athlete. They're going to put him at quarterback, let him run around for a fast-paced offense. Should be fun to watch. Now, with plenty of new talent around the league this year, how do you think a team like Gallia is going to do after losing so much talent and star back Austin Wilson?
Well, you know, I think Mike Eddy is going to be looking at a really different team this offseason. You know, they were a bit of a speed-based team last year. This year, no more. Mike Eddy says they are focusing on strength in the offseason, really moving players, moving the opposite team off the ball. And if there's one thing for sure, it's that we will not see the finesse team we saw last year. And really, on the other end of the spectrum in the league, Portsmouth was near the bottom of the league. They were just decimated by injuries last year. But they are returning quarterback Mason Jordan. He had got a lot of valuable experience last year filling in at quarterback, and they've got a returning O-line as well. So they've got a chance to build up, but you know, they're going to have some tough sledding. And you know, another team that was kind of near the bottom of the conference was Warren. You know, they had a strong start, really tough time in conference play. So how do they look in this year?
Well, I think Warren is kind of the biggest question mark this year. They finished last in the league last year, but they had 5 wins out of conference. Now, quarterback Dylan Leffenwell had a solid season last year, and he's returning this year. So if they can rally behind him and lead and win some league games, they might find themselves in a playoff spot. And someone who played well in league, but not so well out, was Logan. If they get past those first couple games against big teams like Lancaster and Pickerington North, and get behind their running back, Corey McCarty, they should be just fine. Now, what do you think about Chillicothe? They were the big surprise last year.
Well, yeah, they were a huge surprise. They came in second in the league. They had a rough start. However, Ron Hinton's building one heck of a program, and I think they're going to be right up near the top of that league again. So, but, you know, no matter how it shakes out, I really think it's going to be a wild year in the SEOL. Back to you, Blake.
Okay, always entertaining when those two talk SEOL football. Good stuff, fellas. They'll have you covered all season long for what promises to be an exciting season in the SEOAL. Well, players are certainly ready to trade the bright summer sun for the bright lights on Friday night. But anyone will tell you preparation starts long before that chin strap is fastened for the first time. As coaches and athletes tell us, getting your body prepared for the 10-week grind is a year-round commitment.
Well, there's no question these summer practices is what's going to let us get ahead of the game.
It brings us together a lot more. We got the seniors come in, we lift every day together, and we're more of a team, more of a family this year than I think in the past, spending more time together.
The true sense of the word family. You're close, and it's, I mean, like I say, you have to learn everything about the kids, find out what they can handle.
Running back, run him over. Here we go. Come on, we gotta get tougher. Stop.
Oh, it's crucial, and you know we have the 10 days of conditioning days or 10 contact days you're allowed in the summertime, and probably every coach will tell you those are the 10 days where you actually put in your offense.
Start early and get that relationship going before actual football practice started, so that way we're closer, we're going to work harder together, and we're already like comfortable doing that.
It's certainly where you try to get a leg up on your opponent, and it's one of the few things that you really have a lot of control over as a player.
You know, you just got to grind, and we're going to do it.
Clearly, players have spent plenty of hours on the field and in front of the drawing board, but every bit will be worth it come next week when it's finally time to kick off. The TVC Hawking has long been dominated by the Trimble Tomcats, but last year's edition of WOUB brought a new bully to town. The White Falcons blitzed their way to a league title in their first season and a trip to the Class A state championship game. Nick Hurst gives a look back to the year that was in the Hawking.
The TVC Hawking went through a big change going into the 2010 season. The conference added 3 new teams, Belpre, South Gallia, and WOUB. WOUB, hailing from West Virginia, took the conference by storm and shocked the 2-time defending champion, the Trimble Tomcats, in Week 2. WOUB cruised from there, going undefeated during the regular season. In the playoffs, the White Falcons continued their run and advanced to the Class A state championship game, but lost to Wheeling Central Catholic. The Trimble Tomcats fell to second place, but recovered from a 1-3 start and won their last 6 games of the season to clinch a playoff berth. Dick Tipton's Eastern Eagles matched Trimble's total of 7 wins and placed 3rd in the conference in what was Coach Tipton's last season. Waterford showed positive signs for the 2011 season and picked up 5 conference wins. South Gallia also took a strong stride to the future and had all of their 4 wins come in the TVC Hawking. The rest of the conference struggled against the top 5, with the teams combining for a 6-40 record.
Our eyes and ears inside the Hawking this season will be this man, Nick Hurst, joining us at the desk. Nick, WOUB came in and with a bang last season in the Hawking. Is it their league to win again this season?
I think so, Blake. They got experience on their side. They got 7 guys returning on offense, 6 guys on defense. Trenton Gibbs will be back at the quarterback position. He's been going to camps in the offseason, so he could be a good leader for them. Anthony Grimm will be at the fullback position again. He's a power back. But I think the big thing for WOUB is that first game of the season against Trimble. Remember last year, that was pretty much the TVC Hawking Championship game, and that was the first game of the season as well last year. So I think if they do beat Trimble, it'll definitely make it a lot easier for them to repeat as TVC Hawking champions.
You just mentioned Trimble. They're always a team to be reckoned with in the Hawking. If they're not in first, where do you see them falling this season?
Well, I do see them falling near the top. they got experience as well. Justin Jewell will be back at quarterback. They actually had a little bit of quarterback controversy with Connor Stanley. He'll be a wide receiver, but you might actually see him at some in quarterback formations, but also at the wide receiver position. But the big guy they got coming back this year is Austin Keith. He played fullback last year, but this year he'll be at the running back position, and he's filling in for Tyler Dyla. Everybody remembers Tyler Dyla, but he had some interesting words about this upcoming season.
Kind of feel like I'm a caged like tiger or something, and now I get my chance to shine. So hopefully I can do what I do.
Wow.
Yeah, a caged tiger.
Okay. You know? All right. Well, we'll see how that goes this season.
Yeah.
All right. Well, last year Eastern was a team that surprised a lot of people last year. They were 7-3. No one really thought a lot of them. Who do you think will be a team like Eastern this season that'll surprise people?
Well, you mentioned Eastern. I think there'll be a team that's down this season. They got 2 seniors coming back on the team and a lot of inexperienced guys playing different positions. But as far as a team that could step up and be a team like them last year, I looked to South Gallia as well as Waterford. South Gallia's got 8 starters on offense coming back, 8 starters on defense, but also Waterford's got Trevor Lane coming back, and he's been a starting quarterback since he was a freshman. And a team like Miller, Brian Hinkle, he's a first-year coach at Miller. He's confident in his team that they can compete in the TVC Hawking. A lot of other coaches mentioned Belpre as a team that could be a competitor. They're a young team, but Coach Greg Adams is in his 2nd year at coach, and they got time to learn the system, the JV guys. So we look to Belpre to be a team that could be a competitor this year.
Well, the Hawking should give us plenty to talk about this season. That's Nick Hurst. You'll be hearing from him all season long as he covers the Hawking. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Now, anytime there's potential for a 3-way tie for a conference championship, you get our attention here at Gridiron Glory. The TVC Ohio had just that last season before Nelsonville beat Athens in an instant classic in the final game of the season to claim the title outright. Frank Bum recaps what was an ultra-competitive 2010 season in the Ohio.
The TVC Ohio was a play away from a 3-way tie last season, with Athens and Alexander each having 1 loss in the league in Week 10. If the Bulldogs could hand the Buckeyes their first conference loss, each team would have a share of the title. But the Buckeyes held on by the narrowest of margins, winning 28-27. The win gave the Buckeyes a perfect 5-0 mark for the conference play and their 7th title in 8 years. But Alexander was close on their heels. Led by head coach Sean Arno and running back Cody Lawson, the Spartans posted an 8-2 record, earning them another playoff berth. Athens had a tough start to the season, but battled back in conference play to get 3rd in the TVC Ohio, losing only to Nelsonville and Alexander. Wellston started the season off with a bang, beating rival Jackson for the first time in 19 years, giving the Ironmen their only loss of the regular season. But the Rockets could only beat the bottom of the conference. Benton County and Meigs rounded out the bottom of the league, with only 1 league win between them. This year, all eyes will be on who, if anyone, could stop another Buckeyes title run.
Joined now on set by our TVC Ohio experts, Frank Bum and Justin Sampson. Guys, I guess the question is, can anyone take down the juggernaut that is Nelsonville York?
Well, Blake, if anyone's going to take down Nelsonville York, they're going to have a tough time doing it. Since 2003, the Buckeyes have only 2 conference losses. The average margin of victory during that time, 20 points. And that's why they're at the top of our projections for this year's TVC Ohio. If anyone's going to prove us wrong and dethrone Nelsonville York, who's going to be, Justin?
Well, whoever it's going to be, Frank, they better be ready for a fight that's not for the faint of heart. You start with Athens, a team that lost to Nelsonville York and Alexander by 1 point apiece last year. 2 measly points, and we're talking about who's knocking off the Bulldogs as conference champs. It starts in the backfield with running back Devon Sharp, who needs to be an absolute stud like he was last year for this program. They also return defensive co-player of the year in Matt Ryder, who's going to need to anchor that D if they want to contend with a tough Buckeyes offense. But what about the Spartans? Well, 7th-year man Sean Arno definitely has them pointed in the right direction, including that 2nd-place finish that they had last year. But they're going to need to replace a lot of talent, including in the backfield with player of the year finalist Cody Lawson. Also lose all-league honorees Mike Chapman and Brandon McCarthy. But Sean Arno is not worried about the kids who are stepping into that position. So those are the upper echelon teams that we're talking about, Frank, but you got to believe that there's a dark horse ready to kind of poke their nose into that race.
Well, if the team that's going to be doing that could be Wellston. Jalen Prater is a great quarterback for them. They beat a solid Jackson team. It was actually Jackson's only regular season loss last season. The issue for them is going to be whether the team they have around him, if they can step up their play for him. With the Vinton County and Meigs, they've had trouble breaking out of the TVC Ohio cellar in recent years. They've had difficulty dealing with the size and talent of the upper tier in the TVC Ohio. And the talent, the TVC Ohio is in spades.
Well, I mean, if there's definitely one player that you got to keep your eye on if you're a defender, I got to go back to Devon Sharp. Dude was an absolute stud last year. Like I said, 1,700 yards, averaged at $123 a game, 14 scampers for a score, and even threw every once in a while, tossing for a TD. And with that beautiful new turf he's running on, kid's going to fly like lightning.
Well, he's going to have plenty of competition in the backfield. Dustin Young is a great back for the Nelsonville York Buckeyes. He rips through defenses. He will tear through arm tackles. You have to try and bring him down with help, otherwise it's going to be a tough time. Nathan Dean in the Buckeyes backfield is a solid quarterback. He is a great leader both on and off the field. In those big games in the TVC Ohio, he's going to be the guy that holds them together. And there's plenty of great matchups in the TVC Ohio, Justin, with Alexander and Nelsonville York in Week 9, with Nelsonville York at Athens and the revamped Rotor Field in Week 10. That's another great matchup that you're going to want to keep on your calendar, Brody.
That one marked already, Frank. Good job, fellas. Straight from our TVC Ohio source, Frank Bum and Justin Sampson. We look forward to another exciting season from our TVC Ohio teams. Well, there you have it. Each conference has been broken down, and hopefully you have a sense of what to expect this season from your favorite teams and conferences. I guess the only thing left to do now, preview our Week 1 games. A new season means a fresh start for Gridiron Glory and high hopes for teams across the region. Week 1 of the season could help answer many preseason questions. Can Alexander replace the production of Cody Lawson and Michael Chapman and make it 3 straight playoff runs? They'll be tested in their opener at Eastern. Will Tri-Valley be the team to beat this year in the NVL? We'll get a glimpse of what to expect when they take on Upper Arlington. The tradition is rich in Parkersburg, and the Big Reds should be an interesting team to keep an eye on this year. They open up with Brooke. Can Gallia Academy compete in the SCAOAL without reigning Player of the Year Austin Wilson? They'll be put to the test when the TVC Ohio favorite Athens Bulldogs come to town Week 1, led by star running back Devon Sharp. And Kickoff Friday wouldn't be complete without the classic rivalry between Logan and Lancaster. Our Game of the Week will feature 2 teams looking to jumpstart their seasons with a win over their top rival. Well, that wraps up our show for this week. Hopefully everyone has a feel for what to expect from your favorite teams this season. But now the time for talking is over. Everything kicks off next week, and we hope you'll join us at 11:30 each Friday as we bring you all the hard-hitting action. So, for the entire crew, I'm Blake Brody, reminding you that there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.